Hey everyone, and welcome to Sunday Evening Live from here in the UK. I hope you're all doing really, really well. So, actually, I would like to say a very happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers in the USA. Unfortunately, we had Mother's Day way back on the 27th of March. But to all of you in the States, happy Mother's Day. I hope you're all doing really well. We have had Music Therapy Lads, Sandra, Nigel is pleased to see you, Phil Seguera, Grandpa Joe, Phil, Ben Coombs, Unlike No Spark, Bam Mozzie, Anton, hey, Geronimo Martinez Fabregas, great to see you, Dennis, lovely to see you in, William De Silva, Jake Leigh Guitar, Grumpy Mike, hey, Scott Guitars, we've got a new, here we go, Big Bulky. Hey, great to see you in. And BC Rich 581. I can also see on the other screen Billy Shelton. Hey, great to see you in from Texas. So tonight, we are paying tribute to an amazing guitar player, Gary Moore. Now, I have got a little bit of a treat for you tonight because I did a tribute to Gary Moore about, I'm going to say 2 years ago. And I have got the version to play you that I did initially. So this is actually the, it's kind of not been seen before, but I would like to play this. Now, what I did was I came up with a chord progression and also a lead line that sounds very much like Gary. So, I'm going to play it for you, and I hope you really enjoy it because I love playing this. This is my special tribute to Gary Moore. Here we go. So there we go. It was called 10 Years Before. And the reason it was called 10 Years Before is that I think I actually wrote it about 10 years after Gary died, which was an absolute shame. Hey, A1F Tupper. Wow, we have got something really cool to show you tonight as well. A very, very great day on Friday. I got together with Paul and Ray and Matt to do a demo of a really, really interesting guitar. And I'm going to get that for you because we are going to be doing an auction for a very, very special guitar. Hey, Fruitcake Tony and my brother Aaron from the Albus Band. Hope you are doing well. Johnny Bean, wow, excellent. Andy and Esther, great to see you in, really good. Sammy Tree, Hobo Roadie, Keith Campbell. It's great to see you all in. Thank you so much. So I have a packed show for you tonight. We are going to look at Gary Moore's best albums. We're going to look at a documentary that Gary Moore has done that you can watch. We're going to look at Gary Moore's favourite tracks. We're also going to take a little look back at Gear Street 3 and an Ibanez headless. So I'm really delighted to see Sean Hockey's in. Excellent. And also we're going to do a little tribute to Gary, which I did before, and I voiced it so that way back when my speech was so much better. So I'm going to, Shane, hey mate, great to see you. Tim Thomas, Stephen Franklin, Deja Voodoo, Ian Skelding. Wow, where's the hidden hand? Love it. I replied to one of your comments earlier. Great comment, my friend. Janice, hey, great to see you. And Keith Campbell. Right, so we're going to do a little tribute to Gary now, and I hope you enjoy it.
Acknowledged as one of the finest musicians that the British Isles has ever produced, and with a career that dated back to the 1960s, there were few musical genres that Gary Moore had not turned his adroit musical hand to. Gracing the lineups of several notable rock bands, Thin Lizzy, Colosseum 2 and the original Skid Row in his time, he also established himself as a world-class guitarist with few equals. Gary was born in Belfast, Northern Ireland on the 4th of April 1952. Like many others, he was turned on to rock and roll through first hearing Elvis Presley and then via the Beatles. Seeing the likes of Jimi Hendrix and John Mayall's Blues Breakers in his hometown in the mid-60s opened him up to a rich world of the blues. Hearing the art of the blues guitar performed by such lauded exponents as Peter Green fired Moore's nascent talent, and it wasn't long before he was being hailed as a teen musical prodigy. Indeed, it was Green himself who helped foster Moore's career, a debt that was handsomely repaid when Gary cut his warm, heartfelt tribute to his mentor, the Blues for Greenie album released in 1995. Gary's first band of note, the power trio Skid Row, secured a record deal with CBS label in 1970. By this time, Gary had moved to Dublin and befriended a certain Philip Lynott, who filled the vocal role with Skid Row until shortly before the CBS deal was signed. Gary cut 3 albums with the band and toured the USA supporting the Allman Brothers Band and Mountain, among others, before he left Skid Row to embark on a solo career. This proved short-lived as Gary was soon to reunite with Phil Lynott as a replacement for Eric Bell in the Thin Lizzy lineup. Although he was in the band for a relatively brief tenure, he would rejoin their ranks following the departure of Brian Robertson in 1977, and again finally as a full band member for the Black Rose album and tour in 1978. In 1979, Gary's solo career began in earnest with the evocative hit single Parisian Walkways, which pitched Gary's tasteful blues-soaked lead guitar with a moody Phil Lynott guest vocal. The single reached the UK top 10 in April of that year, and the subsequent album Back on the Streets was similarly well received. The late 1970s and early 80s were characterised by Gary's restless search for the best musical settings for his talents. A reunion with Phil Lynott produced the powerful Out in the Fields hit single in 1985. He explored his Celtic roots on the album Wild Frontier in 1987, but it was with his 1990 album Still Got the Blues that Gary arrived at a rich musical vein within which his creativity could flow freely. And its successor, After Hours, saw cameo appearances from the likes of blues guitar greats as Albert King, B.B. King and Albert Collins, and is a testament to Gary's own remarkable talents that he more than held his own amongst such august company. In 1994, Gary worked alongside Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce in the BBM, cutting one accomplished album before resuming his solo career. The Back to the Blues 2001 album saw him revisit the blues with renewed vigour and determination after the more experimental Dark Days in Paradise from 1997 and A Different Beat in 1999, those albums. A 10-track collection that mixed excellent more originals with gritty and intense standard covers, but in the tradition, keeping his fans and critics guessing. 2002 saw Gary crashing back onto the music scene with what had to be his heaviest collection of songs since the late 1980s, once again forcing people to reassess any opinions and preconceptions that they might have had of him. That time round, though, Moore had decided to share the limelight, joining forces with ex-Skunk Anansie bassist Cass Lewis and Primal Scream drummer Darren Mooney from Scars, a true power trio in every respect. The Scars album was completed in early 2002, and that lineup then went on to record the Live at the Monsters of Rock 2003 live CD and DVD, which featured the band's set as performed on two separate nights on the UK tour in May 2003. That live set encompassed a diverse range of material across Gary's playing career. 2004 saw possibly the rawest album yet with Power of the Blues. The 10-track set, recorded mostly live in the studio, ranged from the hard rock blues of the title track via the upbeat swing of Can't Find My Baby to the haunting Torn Inside. Taking time out in August 2005 for a brief reunion with former Thin Lizzy members for a one-off concert in Dublin to mark the occasion of Phil Lynott's birth, the evening was filmed at 2006 DVD release, Gary Moore and Friends One Night in Dublin, a tribute to Phil Lynott. With his 2007 studio album Close As You Get, Gary continued in a direction not too dissimilar from Old New Ballads Blues, released in 2006, mixing original tunes with some interesting blues covers that Gary had rediscovered while researching for his award-winning radio series Blues Power for Planet Rock. September 2008 saw the release of what would turn out to be Gary's last studio album, Bad For You Baby. Again, a powerful collection of tracks mixing original material and selected blues covers. After being on the road for most of 2008 and into 2010 with the blues lineup of touring band, Gary returned from a tour of Russia and the Far East and decided to reunite with his old sparring partner from the rock lineup of the 1980s, Neil Carter. The plan was to put together a rock lineup and dust off a selection of tracks from the mid to late 80s, adding John Noyce, ex-Jethro Tull, on bass, someone who was also part of the One Night Dublin tribute DVD in 2005, and Darren Mooney, Primal Scream / Sessions, on drums, who was no stranger to the touring and recording lineup in the late 90s and early 2000s. This lineup hit the road in May of 2010, performing a live set based around a selection of tracks from Gary's rock years of the 1980s. This proved to be a real treat for fans old and new, as many would not have heard Gary play these songs live either for a very long time, or in many cases at all. In addition to the older tunes, a number of new Celtic rock style tracks were included in the show, which went down very well with live audiences. Tracks which Gary was planning to record and embellish on his next studio project. A project that was ready to start when Gary returned from a short holiday break. Unfortunately, that was not meant to be, as Gary passed away in his sleep in the early hours of the 6th of February 2011 in Estepona, Spain. After being such a force of nature in the guitar-playing firmament as part of his professional career that began when he was only 16, he leaves behind a huge hole for many, not just his close family and friends, but guitar fans around the world. All of the many tributes paid to Gary since his passing, maybe this one from Gary's friend and musical collaborator Don Airy might sum up the best of most people's thoughts of Gary. He says, "At the 1984 Donington Festival, during the long solo in empty rooms, the previously restless crowd went so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone backstage and behind the scenes stopped whatever they were doing and just stood to listen open-mouthed. His artistry touched thousands of people over the years, not least those of us lucky enough to have shared a stage or recording studio with him. Sleep tight, old mate, you'll be sorely missed."
So there we go, my little tribute from a couple of years ago to Gary Moore. And I've seen some really interesting comments here, and thank you for them. Gary was an absolutely amazing guitarist. I was fortunate enough to interview Ray Russell on Friday, and he talks about playing with Gary and what a nice guy he was. And so you'll see that pretty soon. BC Rich 581 says Scott Gorham has a good piece online about a trip to see Van Halen that Lizzie took in '79. Gorham spoke on how after watching Eddie, he left and spent 10 hours in his hotel and figured out tapping. Wow. I've got a very interesting thing from Scott Gorham in just a moment, but I just want to say a big thank you to Grumpy Mike first for the wellness tone jar, and why not? I too really miss Gary Moore. Awesome tone. And Val, I'm not sure what that means, but cheers. Let me give you one of these, my brother. And thank you so much. Never courted, but always appreciated. Grumpy Mike, you rock. Thank you. Also, thank you for the lovely comments about the tribute. Really, really am a huge fan of Gary Moore. Taking 10 hours to get the hang of essential neck tapping is pretty impressive on the part of Gary, or indeed Scott. So let me tell you something. I've got two things to tell you. Number one, I would like to thank my buddy John Robson Guitar, because he became a patron this week. And that is so kind of him. So thank you so much when you watch the replay, my friend, as you always do on a Monday morning. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy the tribute to Gary Moore. Don't worry about being late, tall, thin Kev. Right, okay. So Friday, we did a video with my mate Paul and with Ray Russell, and also with an amazing guitar player called Matt. Now, at the end of that video, I was quite taken aback because Paul, my dear friend, gave me something that you are all going to love, and you can bid on it. So we have a fusion guitar. Now, the fusion guitar is quite an incredible piece of gear, but this one is signed by the Black Star Riders, including Scott Gorham there. So it's signed by Ricky Rourke, Scott Gorham, Richard Crane, Chad Stevens, and also the lead guitar player, whose name I can't quite pronounce, but also it's signed by my buddy Mr. Ray Russell and also by Phil Hilborn. So this guitar is going to be the star piece in my auction when we start auctioning off a lot of my guitars for MND charity. So we will be auctioning this one off for the Motor Neuron Disease Association. And yeah, I think, as you can see, this is quite the amazing guitar and signed by all of the Black Star Riders, Ray Russell and also Phil Hilborn. So there we go. A huge thank you. If I can gently put it down, a huge thank you to my good friend Paul. Thank you so much for donating this guitar to the MND charity. It really is awesome. So, yeah, I was absolutely taken aback, which you will see in the video when I play it. And also, this guitar will be the star centerpiece of the auction that I will do coming up very soon. We have got a few more of the guitars that my dear friend gave me, and we will be auctioning those off as well. I'm thinking, now, let me know what you think, okay? I was thinking of maybe getting everybody to chip in and then maybe running a duck race for the winners. Let me know what you think of that, because that way I feel we may well raise more money for the MNDA, which I would really like to do. They have been amazing to me so far, and I have to say it is really cool. They have been brilliant. I've got a lovely lady who sadly lost her husband, who I knew really well, Rick, 8 years ago. And she is now a huge part of the MNDA. And she's been so supportive of me and my family. So I really want to raise a good amount of funds for that. Sean Hockey loves the duck race. Yeah. William Silver says, I'm all about it. That's really cool. Tall Thin Kev says it might not be legal. Yeah, of course it is. What we will do, though, is I will get you guys to donate direct to the MNDA and send me a copy of your donation. That is the simplest way to do it. And also, that way, you can do the, what's it called? The tax funding as well. So you can, what's it called? Somebody will tell me. Yeah, it will be legal. I would not do anything illegal. So, and I can't see YouTube really having a go at me for raising funds for motor neuron disease. So, gift aid, thank you, Jake. That's it, gift aid. And that way they will get 15 or 20%, I think, more. So, yeah, I think the gift aid direct, then you send me your donation, and then I will see that donation and I will add you to the duck race. The only thing is, on top of that, whoever wins will have to pay postage, but that will be in the UK, it won't be a lot. In the US, I just sent a guitar to Arizona, I think. And to be fair, I think it was only about $100. So there we go. Oh, bless you. Oh, music therapy, lads, you are so kind. He said, here's a start to the duck race for the MNDA. Well, let me give you one of these, brother. That is so cool, mate. Thank you so much. How do you ship a duck? Okay, yeah. So I think that is the way that we will go about it. But I won't get you to donate to me. I'll get you to donate direct to the MNDA, exactly as I did with the first guitar that we sent abroad. So that'll be awesome. Okay, so I've got so many videos that I need to play you. Oh, there we go. Bless you, BC Rich 581. He says, oh, let me come out of that. He says, here's $10. I want a swan, not a duck. Actually, there's lots of different characters that we can use, but I will do that duck race. I think that will be how big's the bill. Love it. Let me give you one of these, BC Rich. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. Here's the guy whose name I couldn't say. Oh, I don't think you can see it. I think it is Christian Martuccini. There we go. So, yeah, all signed by the Black Star Riders. Hey, Marcy, great to see you. We have been chatting online, and you have been sending me some great comments. Thank you so much. Keep them up. Okay, so I have quite a few more videos to show you. So I'm going to let you choose the next one. You can either have Gary Moore's best albums, Gary Moore documentary, or Gary Moore's favorite tracks. I will wait and see the very first one that comes up. Leo is lurking while lifting. Hey man, take it easy. Moore's best. Okay, Moore's best albums. That is Grumpy Mike. Thanks, brother. You can have this one.
Gary Moore albums you should definitely own. With Thin Lizzy, on solo albums and playing jazz rock, Gary Moore proved himself to be one of the greatest guitarists of his generation. These are his best albums. The death of Irish guitar hero Gary Moore at the age of 58, on February 6, 2011, was marked by numerous tributes. Moore was remembered by Ozzy Osbourne as a phenomenal musician, by Queen's Roger Taylor as a virtuoso, by Scott Gorham, who played alongside Moore in Thin Lizzy, as a great player and a great guy. And when Eric Clapton performed at the Royal Albert Hall in April 2011, he played an acoustic version of Moore's Still Got the Blues, a dedication from one guitar great to another. Robert William Gary Moore was born in Belfast on April 4, 1952. He was just 16 when he first made a name for himself as a member of Dublin-based blues rock group Skid Row. And it was at this early stage of his career that he formed a lasting bond with Phil Lynott, who was briefly the singer in Skid Row before going on to lead Ireland's greatest rock band, Thin Lizzy. Moore joined Thin Lizzy for a short period in 1974, and later returned twice. He made just one album with the band, Black Rose, in 1979. But he and Lynott were made for each other, and they continued working together for many years until Lynott's death in 1986. Moore had a remarkably broad stylistic range. In the late 70s he recorded 3 albums of jazz rock fusion with Coliseum 2. But it was as a hard rock guitarist that he made much of his best music, both with Thin Lizzy and as a solo artist, and it was as a blues player that he made a successful reinvention in the latter part of his career, beginning with the Still Got the Blues album in 1990. In 1994 Moore lived out a teenage fantasy when he joined Clapton's former Cream bandmates Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker in the short-lived Project BBM. In 95 he also paid tribute to his greatest influence, original Fleetwood Mac guitarist Peter Green, with the covers album Blues for Greenie. Moore was himself an inspiration to a generation of rock guitarists including Slash, Randy Rhoads, Joe Bonamassa and, not least, Vivian Campbell, who in 2011 took time out from Def Leppard to play Moore's role in the reunited Thin Lizzy. Gary didn't F about when it came to playing guitar, says Campbell. There was a full-force physicality to the way he played. He didn't just play fast, he played furious. That was the difference between Gary Moore and other guitarists, that intensity. Thin Lizzy Black Rose, Vertigo, 1979. Thin Lizzy's 1974 album Nightlife featured Moore on one song, their classic ballad Still in Love with You. But in his third and final stint with the band, he stuck around long enough to record a whole album. And it was the best he ever made. Moore put a rocket up Lizzy's ass. His blistering double-track guitar solo on the hit single Waiting for an Alibi had fellow Lizzy guitarist Scott Gorham joking, "F you, Gary." And as Gorham later stated, it was Gary's idea to bring the Irishness back into Thin Lizzy. The result was the album's rollicking, beautiful, mythic title track, Royce in Dub, Black Rose a rock legend. Gary Moore Corridors of Power, Virgin, 1982. This, Moore's best solo album, is a hard rock tour de force on which he stamped his authority as a major star in his own right. Backed by a band of the highest caliber, drummer Ian Pace, Deep Purple, Whitesnake, bassist Neil Murray, Whitesnake and keyboard player Tommy Eyre, Joe Cocker, Moore proved a ballsy singer as well as a hot guitarist. Corridors of Power has many great songs, the crunching Don't Take Me for a Loser, power ballad Always Gonna Love You, and the self-explanatory Rocking Every Night. And on End of the World Moore's fast fingers whipped up a convincing approximation of the apocalypse. Gary Moore Still Got the Blues, Virgin, 1990. By the end of the 80s, Moore had tired of hard rock. This much was evident on his labored '89 album After the War. He responded by going back to his roots, playing electric blues. He was rewarded both with critical acclaim and a hit record. Still Got the Blues, which featured guest appearances from blues legends Albert Collins and Albert King, and George Harrison. Moore returned the favor for Harrison's supergroup Traveling Wilburys, went top 20 in the UK and was Moore's only top 100 album in the US. And with this album's soulful, stinging title track he created a modern blues classic. Gary Moore Back on the Streets, MCA, 1978. It was Moore's first proper solo album, but Phil Lynott played a key role in Back on the Streets. And by the time the album was released, he'd coaxed the guitarist back to Thin Lizzy. Lynott took the lead vocal on Parisian Walkways, which would become Moore's signature hit. The pair also reworked Lizzy's Don't Believe a Word in its original slow blues format to brilliant effect, and had a blast with Lynott's tongue-in-cheek song Fanatical Fascists. Moore showed off his chops on 2 jazz rock instrumentals, but it was on the album's kick-ass title track that he really let rip, as only he could. Gary Moore G-Force, Jet, 1980. Having quit Thin Lizzy for the final time in July 1979 amid rows over Lynott and Gorham's drug use, Moore settled briefly in LA, where, bizarrely, he hooked up with two of the most infamous druggies in the business. First, he worked with Ozzy Osbourne. When that didn't gel, he formed a new band, G-Force, with Glenn Hughes. But Hughes was promptly fired and the G-Force album was completed with a new singer, Willie D. It's Moore's lost classic, full of punchy hard rock. And on the explosive double whammy of White Knuckles, Rocking and Rolling, he answered Eddie Van Halen's Eruption, with interest. Gary Moore Victims of the Future, 10, 1984. The follow-up to Corridors of Power was essentially a repeat performance. Murder in the Skies is as cataclysmic as End of the World, Teenage Idol is as gonzoid as Rocking Every Night, and, having nailed a killer version of Freeze wishing well on Corridors, on Victims Moore did likewise with the Yardbirds Shapes of Things, with backing vocals from Slade Foghorn Noddy Holder. Victims of the Future also includes Moore's second most famous rock ballad, Empty Rooms, and an epic title track. At Donington in 1984, Moore faced off against Eddie Van Halen and Angus Young in a battle of the guitar heroes. And won. Gary Moore Wild Frontier, 10, 1987. The first album Moore recorded after the death of his friend Phil Lynott, Wild Frontier carried a simple dedication on its cover, for Philip. Moore had written the album's title track for Lynott to sing. In the end, the song and the album would serve as an epitaph. There is a flavor of Moore's and Thin Lizzy's Irish heritage in Over the Hills and Far Away, a top 20 hit, and in Johnny Boy, the album's closing eulogy. And on The Loner, an instrumental written by ex-Jeff Beck Group keyboard player Max Middleton, Moore's playing has a deep and powerful emotive quality. Wild Frontier was the perfect tribute to Lynott. Gary Moore Run for Cover, 10, 1985. After the G-Force debacle in 1980, Glenn Hughes was understandably surprised when Moore brought him in as co-creator on Run for Cover. But, once again, this dream team quickly turned sour. Hughes was a crack addict, and when Moore found out he was promptly fired. As a result, Hughes featured on only half of the album, and delivered a great lead vocal on Reach for the Sky. But the best tracks were the two that Moore recorded with Phil Lynott, the classic top 5 hit Out in the Fields, and Military Man, originally written for Lynott's post-Lizzy band Grand Slam. These tracks were Lynnott's last great performances. Coliseum 2 Electric Savage, MCA, 1977. As Spinal Tap discovered, jazz rock fusion isn't for everyone. But it was in this idiom that Gary Moore really stretched himself as a musician. In 1975 he teamed up with drummer John Heisman to form Coliseum 2, the successor to Heisman's pioneering late 60s fusion group Coliseum. And of the 3 albums recorded by Coliseum 2, Electric Savage, the second, is the best. Also featuring future Rainbow Deep Purple keyboard player Don Airey and bassist John Mole, who replaced original member Neil Murray, the album showcases a level of virtuosity that makes Yes sound like a punk band.
Yeah, so there we go. The best of the best from Gary Moore. And I just want to say a big hello to my mate Andy. Andy Loban, great to see you in, my friend. And yes, I would love to catch up soon. Give me a tinkle. I'm still on the same number, and I would love to catch up real soon, buddy. So thank you for that. Really great to see you in. Oh, Big G. Thank you, my friend. What's up, bro? Howdy, everyone. Well, let me give you one of these. Thank you, brother. Never courted, but always appreciated. Thank you so much, bro. Really appreciate that. And thank you. I hope you're enjoying the tribute to Gary. Oh, awesome. Andy, I look forward to having a chat with you tomorrow. That'll be awesome. And I can't wait to see you as well. Sean Hockey saying, hey, Big G. Great video, bro. Always preferred the rock, Gary Moore. Well, yeah, I'm with you on that, Andy, because you know that you and I always used to listen to God live. and I think his solo on Empty Rooms was probably one of my favourite all-time solos from anybody. So yeah, I do love the rock Gary Moore as well, but I have to say I love the bluesy Gary as well. I think he is just an amazing blues player. There we go. He said he was so good at the blues stuff, but I agree. Always preferred the rock stuff too. There you go. Well, we all love Gary. That's without a doubt. So, oh my goodness, we are 41 minutes through, and I have got so much left to play you. Let me just get rid of that one. Okay, right. I'm going to dive straight into either the Gary Moore documentary or Gary Moore's favourite tracks. I will go with whatever I see first. So, whichever you want, type it in and you'll get it. Let's see what we can get. Let me see. Oh, here we go. Anyone named Gary is awesome, except my Gary Glitter. Oh man. Oh, Ben, see you later. Don't forget, check out Ben's live show tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Have a great live show, mate. I'll watch it in the morning. Tracks. Favorite tracks. Okay, you've got it, folks. You've got it. It will be the tracks. Gary Moore's favorite tracks. Here we go.
Gary Moore was one of the most influential and well-respected guitarists in rock history. Born in Northern Ireland in 1952, he would go on to perform with some of the biggest names in rock music, and his unmistakable style would encompass an eclectic range that included blues, hard rock, heavy metal, and jazz. Two of his earliest influences were Peter Green and Eric Clapton, and you can hear their dazzling blues licks permeating his work. He began his musical career in the late 60s when he joined the Dublin blues rock outfit, Skid Row, which also featured his friend and future Thin Lizzy bandmate, Phil Lynott. Moore released 2 albums with the band before joining Thin Lizzy in 1971, where he linked up again with Lynott. His time in the band would be brief, and he departed in 1974, but his experience in Thin Lizzy was significant. He honed his skills as well as recorded classic tracks such as Still in Love with You. This short tenure in the band would equip Moore with all the appropriate skills to go ahead and make it on his own as a legend. He would link up again with Thin Lizzy in the late 70s, but this time was as a guitar-playing god. Afterwards, Moore would blossom as a solo artist. He released the hit single Parisian Walkways in 1978, which established him as one of the most exciting guitarists around. Augmented by the husky vocals of Lynott, there's no wonder why the blues rock masterpiece is hailed as Moore's signature song. Across the rest of his solo career, Moore would collaborate with some of the most iconic names in the business. His second album, 1982's Corridors of Power, featured the likes of former Deep Purple drummer Ian Pace, Whitesnake bassist Neil Murray, and keyboardist Tommy Eyre. Most notably, though, his 1990 album, Still Got the Blues, saw Moore returning to the blues roots, those that had informed his style as a teenager. On the record, he collaborated with 3 of the most lauded living guitarists, Albert King, Albert Collins, and former Beatles guitarist George Harrison. Collaborating with these 3 pioneers is a testament to just how respected Moore had become by the dawn of the 90s. Sadly, Moore passed away at the age of 58 in 2011 due to a heart attack that was attributed to the drinking problem he developed later in life. However, Moore still lives on through the incredible music he produced in his lifetime. He also lives on through the numerous interviews he gave over his life, wherein he discussed his complex artistry, giving fans an insight into his mind. Luckily for us, a few years prior to his death, Moore appeared on the Planet Rock radio show My Planet Rocks, and discussed his favorite songs of all time and why they inspired him so much. It was perhaps the most revealing interview Moore ever gave regarding his musicianship. Unsurprisingly, the first record that he chose was Hideaway by revered London outfit John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. Featuring both Eric Clapton and John Mayall, this 1966 instrumental was a hugely influential piece for budding guitarists of Moore's generation. Significantly, Moore credits the album the track was taken off, Blues Breakers with Eric Clapton, as the one that got him into the blues. Well, Hideaway was on the 1960s album of the Blues Breakers album with Eric Clapton and John Mayall. It was the album that turned me onto the blues, basically, and this is when Eric was most fiery. He was only like 21 when he made this record, and it's an incredible piece of guitar playing. It's a Freddie King instrumental, and Eric sort of tells his own version. He is kind of showing the world what he is made of. So it's a great track, Moore said. The next song that Moore mentioned is Jimi Hendrix's Manic Depression. Taken from the Jimi Hendrix Experience's debut, 1967's Are You Experienced? This fan favorite of Hendrix's was the one that confirmed to Moore just how much of an iconoclast the Seattle native was. Moore recalled, I remember hearing the song starting, so I was like, oh, this is great sort of R&B singer, soul singer, that's kind of how I saw him, but then his guitar started, and I was going, wait a minute, what's going on? This guy can be really special, something is going to happen. And the next thing he puts the guitar up to his face, and I was thinking, this guy plays with his teeth, How Phil Lynott defied expectation and became a rock hero. Another entry on the list that isn't so surprising is the Beatles' Here Comes the Sun. Moore made it very clear over his lifetime that he owed a lot to George Harrison, particularly in the way that the Quiet One constructed his solos. He admitted, from him, I've learned about melody a lot, from him and Hank Marvin, actually. Moore would learn a lot from playing alongside Harrison, and these were invaluable lessons that helped him take his playing up a notch. He said, he would just put this little lick in it, would have some little maybe fast bits in it and just be kind of outside what you would imagine in the solo for that song to be. He added, he really was a giant in the music world for me, very sadly missed. Another player who accounts for the swaggering bluesy licks that Moore did so well was B.B. King. Picking King's track, The Thrill Is Gone, as Moore explained, I love minor key blues for a start. It's in C minor, so right there it's where it got me, before you even start with the lyric. But the lyrics are beautiful as well. I love, kind of, sad sort of love songs that are played in that kind of blues mode. I love that, I've always liked it, going back to Peter Green and people like that. That sort of minor key thing to me in the blues and the guitar, they just go together so well, and he is a master of it. No list of Gary Moore's favorite songs would be complete without a nod to the aforementioned Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac. Choosing their enduring romp, Black Magic Woman, which to many is Green's masterwork, Moore opined, I just think it represents Peter Green in so many ways. A lot of people think of Peter Green just as a great blues guitarist, but he was also a great singer and great songwriter. This was a very early effort from him, and it's such a simple song. It was covered by Santana later on, as you probably know, and became a huge hit for Santana. But this is the original version, and to me, it says it all. Of course, the final track that Moore picked was the 1979 Thin Lizzy hit, Sarah. Written by Lynott and Moore about the former's newborn daughter, it is perhaps the best song that was born out of the Lynott-Moore partnership. He remembered, we did that, and Tony Visconti, producer, spent ages with me getting the guitar that very clean guitar sound. He put through eventide harmonizers and all kinds of things. I had this kind of little pedal, a distortion thing. I put the guitar through that, there was no amp on that particular sound for the solo. We came up with some very different sounds that you wouldn't associate with Thin Lizzy. One of the finest guitarists of all time, it's a tragedy that Gary Moore passed away so prematurely. However, through interviews such as this, we get to understand his artistry and persona better, and for budding guitarists, moments such as these are vital for refining their own sound and learning from the very best.
Okay. I think I slightly slowed the track underneath that down. I'm so sorry. What oh dear. Anyway, Tall Thin Kev met Peter Green, chatting to him and thinking, where do I know this bloke from? Wow. Gary always reminds me of Jim Morrison. Wow. Also, a physicist named Eric Weinstein. Wow. Okay. Cool. I think he's an amazing guy. Gary was a monster. Oh, thanks, Matt. I'm really sorry about the slow undertow of that. But yeah, that was Gary's favourite stuff. Oh, yes, definitely. Gary is most certainly a god. I would totally agree with you there. I'll tell you what we're going to do, because we haven't got time to play the demo I did. And I know Sean Hockey is going to be really angry with me, because tonight it was going to be an Ibanez headless, but we really don't have time. And to be fair, this is a tribute to Gary Moore, so I will play you the last video I have. Okay, anyone glad that Kurt Hammett is still trolling Greenie? Yes, I am. I am so pleased he plays it live, because that's what guitars are there for. Yeah, yeah, you can see Jim Morrison. You're right. He does indeed own that guitar. Tall Thin Kev used to run a jam, and he happened to be there and was going to play it until someone knew who he was. No, we haven't got time. I am going to keep it to an hour, brother. Bless you. But I have promised that I will keep these videos to an hour. And what's more, I do get a bit tired. So, oh, Mikey, thanks so much for some battery. Love it. Oh, man, I love it. Batteries for the backing tape player. Let me give you one of these, bro. Oh, mate, you kill me. That was so funny. Thank you, bro. No problem. Do what you gotta do. Yeah, well, I figured this is a Gary Moore tribute. We will, I promise you, Sean, I promise you that the Ibanez headless will be in next week. I promise you that, bro. Okay, right. The last video we have of Gary Moore tonight is about a documentary that you guys can watch.
Spent some quality time with Gary Moore in December 2006. This is the story. We had arranged to meet in a bar near Brighton. He was happy to take part in a TV documentary about music from Northern Ireland, and the guitarist was generous with his thoughts and his schedule. Gary was modest about his achievements, this for a man who had been on good terms with George Harrison, Bob Dylan, B.B. King, and Fleetwood Mac. Other musicians we had interviewed for the program had been less amenable, and there was diva behavior and ego-tripping at times. But not with Gary. He was blokish and funny, with a George Best accent that wavered between East Belfast and Cockney Barrow boy. The only time he discussed the rock and roll lifestyle was when he explained what a waste of time it was. Drugs had led to the premature death of his soul brother, Thin Lizzy's Phil Lynott. They had also been the cause of his departure from the band on a couple of occasions. Gary was no saint, but he had given his best hours to playing guitar, perfecting his skills and writing his tunes. His father Robert had booked bands at the Queen's Hall in Hollywood, Company Down, and so he had been drawn to music from an early age. With a childhood spent battering out the chords to Sugar Time, it was no surprise that he developed a lifelong addiction to the blues. It was this passion which led him to Dublin as a 16-year-old and landed him a job with Skid Row. The band leader Bruce Shields had been so keen to recruit the boy that he travelled to Belfast to meet his father and personally promised to take good care of him. The spine of our documentary, Still Got the Blues, is a candid interview with the man himself in Brighton, less than 5 years ago. Gary had been in excellent health, with no indication that he'd be leaving us so soon. He gave us over an hour of incredible stories to pick from. Like the time when he was given a beautiful Les Paul guitar from Fleetwood Mac's Peter Green. Or the tale of his first meeting in Dublin with Phil Lynott, over a few dishes of Chinese food. Phil scoffed the lot of course, and that, said Gary, was the foundation of their relationship. Lynott would take your food, your girlfriends, and your songwriting talents, but he was still a friend. There wasn't any rancor in Gary's version of the story. He and Lynott argued and made up many times. Their partnership resulted in some timeless Thin Lizzy classics and in subsequent hits like Parisian Walkways and Out in the Fields. Bruce Shields is just one of Gary's old colleagues who takes part in the program. There are also fond words from Thin Lizzy veteran Scott Gorham and Brian Downey, from Skid Row roadie Frank Murray and Hot Press editor Niall Stokes. Like any TV documentary, the story has come together gradually, but as archive film is slotted in and beautiful little quotes find their place in the narrative, the emotion builds and we get the story of a singular guy with his music, his guitar and a career that's over too soon. We're still in love with him. Check out the documentary on the BBC as it is a classic and Gary is awesome.
Yeah, so there we go. The last one, and we have got about 3 minutes left. So I am just going to show you this wonderful prize one more time because Paul was so kind in allowing me to have this. So this is signed by all of the Black Star Riders, also by Ray Russell and by Phil Hilborn. And this is a guitar that you can put an iPhone in and you can record with it. It's got built-in speakers and one on the top for you to monitor your own playing. So this is going to be the star of our little auction, which is coming up really, really soon. Thank you so much again to Paul for this very, very kind donation. Okay, let's just see the last few comments. Remember my friend that it was George Harrison he was singing about, and I remember arguing back that there must have been someone from Ireland named George Best. That was a big deal. Well, he was an amazing footballer. Singer is Ricky Warwick. That's right, indeed. Amazing singer. He sounds so much like Phil Lynott. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Thank you for doing such a great Sunday show on Gary. As always, I learned a lot. That guitar is really cool. Never seen such a thing. You will see it very, very soon. I've got a video coming up, and these fusion guitars are pretty amazing. Thanks, Grumpy Mike. You have a great week as well. Phil likes Eric Bell. There was nothing wrong with Eric Bell. He was great. Hey, and thank you. Cheers, Mike from Martin Cigars. So, all that remains for me to say is thank you all for watching, and you guys take good care.